In this episode, we're going to talk about common side effects and why it has one of the most well-executed season finales in recent memory for me. And then we're going to draw some parallels to The Boys series finale and why it fell short, as well as talk about some factors that were in the showrunner's control and maybe some factors that weren't. This is Did Y'all See That? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Did Y'all See That? I am your host, the Jingu VTuber Ngozi Mai. It has been a long time since I've made a new episode, so we are kind of officially back here. Thank you for welcoming me back. Tonight's episode is going to be a pop your culture episode. We are going to be talking about Common Side Effects, the cartoon adult series that aired, I think, last year in 2025 on Adult Swim, as well as The Boys finale. Those of you that have been around for a while might know that my last episode before taking a 3-year-long hiatus was about The Boys. So it's going to be cool to kind of restart season 2, kind of revisiting that with the finale that just happened last week. So yeah, there are going to be lots of spoilers in this episode. So as y'all know, if you see this come up right here, that means that we are probably talking about something you could be spoiled about. So, look at the episode description and make that decision for yourself. When the spoilers are done, I will press this button and it will go away. So with that, let's kind of jump right into it.
All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit.
But the first segment we're going to talk about tonight is Common Side Effects. Now, I watched this whole series last week. Bear with me. It's been a while, so I might be a little bit rusty. Last week, I saw all 10 episodes, and the finale was one of the most well-done finales I've seen in a really long time. The plot was really, really well done. Quite frankly, the plot itself wasn't even the real draw for me, if I'm being honest. It was exciting and thrilling. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed every minute of it, but the real draw for me were the characters. Like, the characters were so insanely likable. It's amazing. Every single character, too. The thing I like to compare it to is White Lotus. That's a show that I also watched a while ago that I hated. And it's not even because the show was bad. It's because every character was just so awful. And at the end of the show, at the end of the season, there were no consequences for anybody. And that I couldn't reconcile that. Whereas in this show, I think that every single loop that they opened was resolved in a really satisfying way. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Let's start with the premise. So if you've never heard of Common Side Effects, the premise is basically, what if there existed some psychedelic mushroom that could basically heal every human ailment, including death, right? And the way that they covered this, they hit the things that you'd expect them to hit, like the healthcare system, super fucked up, right? The pharmaceutical industry, there's it's called, I think, Recuticle or something like that. This Eli Lilly type pharmaceutical company that owns all of the drugs on the market or something like that. The commodification of health, right? The idea of, if this mushroom existed, someone's going to want to sell it, right? How are we going to sell it? How are we going to replicate it and make it synthetic? Of course, they touched on those. They touched on capitalism. Of course, capitalism was very in your face on this show. They also touched on very interesting things like religion and cults. It was kind of a direction I didn't expect them to go in. They didn't even really harp on it too much. They just kind of planted seeds. I think that this is going to come back maybe in season 2 onward, but they just kind of planted some seeds. We'll talk a little bit more about why that exists, but it was an interesting thing, right? Things like human desperation, when someone is so driven by a goal, that a divine, I guess, purpose, that they go to the ends of the earth to try to achieve this purpose. A very, very interesting takes on this very, very simple premise. It was not overly optimistic. I mean, when you would think a magical mushroom that could heal basically everything, obviously the optimistic take is, oh man, we have to get this into as many mouths as they can, right? This is revolutionary. This is going to change the world in such a good way. But it also kind of was a little bit more realistic about it. What really might happen if this were to go out into the wild. And quite frankly, if I'm being honest, even at the end of the season, we still kind of don't see the consequences. We're just seeing kind of the the storm, or I guess the calm before the storm, right? We don't actually know what's going to happen. I'm not going to get too far into that just yet, but it's an interesting premise. So I really, really love that. Let's talk about the characters, right? This is kind of what kind of hooked me. Every character was just so whimsical and likable. Even the villains, right? Like everybody kind of had their own like drive and motive. And it was an honest motive. Like even the capitalists, even the so-called heartless capitalists had a very honest motive coming from it. And they had vulnerability and weakness shown. It was we're going to talk about the financier Jonas, because I found him to be one of the most interesting characters in the show. And he's the villain. But let's talk about Marshall. So Marshall is our main character. And he's the one that discovered the mushroom, right? He is, I guess, supposed to represent like idealism and naive optimism. Super naive, this guy. And super lucky. Like he like literally dies multiple times. He like almost dies so many times. This dude, I don't know how he's still alive. If this mushroom didn't exist, he would cease to exist. He would cease to exist, right? And I guess maybe that's kind of part of it. Like he's supposed to be just the emotional core of the show, the do the right thing character, right? And then you have kind of Frances, who is this a very also good character. I don't consider her a villain in this show. If anything, I see her as just human. Like she's more of a realist, not an idealist. Like she has realities around like her mom has dementia and she's drowning in medical bills trying to keep her mom in the home that she's in. And so she's trying to make a living in the pharmaceutical industry, which is the devil, right? And she meets Marshall telling her, yeah, they're the devil. So she's trying to hide that from him. But like, she's grounded. She's like, you know what? I have to make a living. And when Marshall tells her about the mushroom, right, she's immediately thinking, good, we need to get this out there. But also she's thinking like pragmatically, like, how do we get this out there? We bring it back to my company and my company will commoditize it and get it to everybody. And I think she actually has a little bit of naivety too. I think that she really kind of thought that for some reason that the pharmaceutical company would like obviously I don't think she's stupid. I think she knew she was going to gain from doing this, but I think she also genuinely thought it was the right thing to do. I think she genuinely thought it was the path of least resistance in getting the drug out to as many hands as you could, which to her credit, when she kind of went behind Marshall's back, by the way, I was supposed to I'll do it in post. I was supposed to put the foiler up, but yeah, it'll happen in post, but even when she kind of goes behind Marshall's back and like brings the mushroom back to the company anyway to try to commoditize it because she really thinks that that's the way to do it. When she starts kind of seeing the reality of it all, that they kind of want only the wealthy to be able to have access to this drug. This isn't something that's going to go to everybody, right? Like she kind of started opening her eyes a little bit. Again, I do think that her character might have been a little bit naive, but I think it was willful because I think a little part of her kind of knew that they were evil and she kind of knew that it wasn't the right thing to do, but like she was kind of telling herself that it was because she knew she needed the money. She knew that it was going to make her life better. Complex character, but likable still. And it's interesting the romance that was budding between them because I didn't actually like catch that like until like later in the series. And I was like, oh damn, they kind of have a little bit of chemistry there. But yeah, no, like I said, like super nuanced and complex characters. I really, really love these. Let's talk about Jonas, I think Backstein. He's basically this Swiss financier that like owns the company, what is it called? Receutical or something like that? The pharmaceutical company. He like kind of owns it. He's kind of portrayed as the main antagonist, right? He's the guy that is saying this drug cannot hit the market. And the way that they initially portrayed him, I think his arc is like my favorite of all the characters in the show. They initially portray him as just this heartless capitalist that just wants, like if we have a miracle drug that cures all ailments, no one will buy all the other drugs, which is the capitalist take, right? You want to stay rich, right? But there was later in the series, I think it was like episode 6 or 7. Somebody presses him on it. Like it was the CEO, Rick. He was like, why can't we get this out? Like this is going to change the world. And it was amazing. The sequence, it kind of talked about the fact that if there is a drug that cures all ailment, sickness no longer exists anymore. Now everything becomes life and death. Now it's going to start wars, right? It's going to start gangs and more violence, and people are going to die and starve. And we kind of see that a little bit. Like when later in the series, when I forgot what her name was. Let me see if I can find it. It's the old lady that hold on, let's see. Amelia. I do not remember her name. Hildy. It was Hildy. Sorry. Okay. So Hildy's the old lady, that Marshall initially brings the mushroom to, and she's like super like fanaticized. Like she's like been like looking for this mushroom her entire life. And, she's kind of crazy about it. She like shoots herself in the chest to try to like force Marshall to like feed her the mushroom and shit. And she kind of is maybe the true antagonist of the series. Like she kind of takes it into that chaotic place that Jonas is afraid of. So it's kind of cool that we actually say like, so it's not bullshit. I guess what I'm trying to say is like Jonas coming out with this nuanced take on why this drug cannot see the light of day. It's not just heartlessly capitalist. There is some actual concern for the greater good there, which I found very complex and really cool to see. And quite frankly, when he first says it, I can see some people going, oh man, that's bullshit. He's just trying to like justify this reason to keep this out of people's hands so he can make himself richer. But like I said, Hildy and her ilk kind of are pushing us into that direction. Again, we don't see the outcome because that's going to be a season 2 thing. But I mean, it's real. And here's the kicker with Jonas. Like he's kind of successful. He gets Marshall put in prison and like presumably killed. He gets this mushroom presumably like thrown out and he destroys the valley that it was discovered in. And right as he wins, like he's even celebrating his win, he learns that he's got terminal cancer, and you see him actively weakening. This character that was so powerful and rich and like just like foreboding and evil this whole time is now weak and vulnerable and desperate. And so pitiful. Like the voice actor did such a good job. I really felt bad for him. I was like, oh my God, because like this was just the ultimate justice. We're going to talk about how this show handles justice. It's really, really kind of awesome, but like, especially with Jonas. And then here's the kicker. When he finally gets the mushroom, like he's now desperate to find the mushroom himself. He flies out to the valley where it's found, even though they destroyed all the mushroom, and he's like desperately eating all the mushrooms that he can find because he destroyed the one thing that can save his life. And he finds out that, Marshall and company and Hildy and them are actually like growing the mushrooms and in some backwoods in South Carolina. He goes there desperate, just like the rest of them. Like there's like a line of just normal people all trying to find this. They're trying to get this mushroom, this miracle drug, and he's in line with the rest of them. It was just such oh my gosh, like his arc is so nuanced in how it played out. And even when he finally gets the mushroom, he overindulges. The greed makes it so he overindulges and overdoses. And then here comes his justice. He is now stuck in hell. He is in a bad trip, like presumably permanently in a coma, just reliving a horrible hell-like bad trip. It was just the most satisfying arc of any character in the show. I really, really loved his arc. Then there's also Capono and Harrington, the two agents. Obviously, I think most people that watch this show, I think those two characters are probably their favorites because they're just so wonderful and whimsy to look at. They're clearly great friends. You know, they're both trying to be really, really good people and trying to do the right thing. But it's interesting to kind of see what their definitions of the right thing is later in the show when they're kind of forced to make decisions around whose side they're on, right? Capono is of the idea that the greater good requires us to get this mushroom out. When they find out what the mushroom is and that the government wants to suppress it, Capone's like, no, this is the greater good. This is wrong what the government's doing. We need to do the right thing. But then Harrington is like, actually, this is our duty, and we shouldn't be questioning what our duty is, which is extra interesting because Harrington is a queer woman. She's gay. So it's wild to like have that kind of mindset in this character that's already counterculture, but like going with the culture. It was a very interesting take there. Let's talk about justice and consequences and how this show treats death. Surprisingly, there are plenty of people in the show that probably could have died and maybe should have died. But very few people actually die in this show. It's very fascinating. I think I can only count like 4 people that died in this show. And they all died for very specific reasons, right? And, maybe it comes with the premise. The premise is that like they effectively cured death. So, okay, makes sense that not many people would actually die in this show. People would get very near death, but not actually die. So that's why when people die, it's very notable. It's shocking. You take note of it. The 4 deaths that I noted, the first one is the cartel guy. It was like in the 2nd episode or something something like that. Some cartel guy that was feeding Jonas information on Marshall discovering the mushroom and using it in, I think, Colombia or wherever they were, Peru, to show what the miracle does. Like he saved some little boy's life, and the cartel guy saw it with his eyes. Jonas asks him, did you tell anybody else about this? He said, oh yeah, of course I did. And then Jonas like shoots him in the fucking head, which was crazy. Like it was shock factor. Like it was supposed to show the brutality of it all, what Jonas is willing to do to keep this drug from getting out. So that was the significance of that death. The next death I can think of is the assassin that was in the prison with Marshall to try to kill Marshall, that was hired by Jonas. That character was so cool, by the way. Like it was so random that this master assassin guy just like gets himself arrested in like the most like crazy psychotic way just to like be like basically to be put in place to be able to kill Marshall. It was just really, really cool. But he had to die for plot reasons. Maybe his death was like maybe the least useful because he was there to show Marshall is in danger. And he had to die because Marshall can't die. I get that, but I mean, it was a reason. There was an expositional reason for that death. Redneck guy, I forgot his name, but he's like one of the redneck guys that basically went out in a blaze of glory during the FBI raid. I want to say that he died because someone had to die. Like, I think that if you're going to have an FBI raid that is this climactic last episode sequence, someone has to die. And he was, I guess, a minor enough character to do that. Now, the death in the show that I think was the most, I guess, obviously the most poignant, the most emotional, but the most kind of beautiful to me was Francis's mom. So, as I mentioned, Francis's mom had dementia, and she was confined to this like a hospice home to like live out her days. And we don't really know how long she's been in there, but you can kind of tell like from the pain from Francis trying to talk to her mom, who is catatonic. She can't talk to her. It's probably been a while. Francis feeds her mom a mushroom that Marshall left for her. And it doesn't work right away. So she's thinking the mushroom is bullshit. And then I think she goes to like Switzerland or something for work, and she gets a phone call from her mom. And I got actually like really emotional, like just watching this, like her hearing her mom's voice for the first time in who knows how long. She immediately flies back home, and she's able to have a little bit more time with her mom. The reason why I say a little bit more is because her mom, with his newfound health and newfound youth, climbs a tree because she just wants to. She's just like, I want to get out there. She's been a prisoner in her own mind for how long? And now she finally has her life back. And all she wants to do is go to climb that tree. And she does. And she falls out of the tree. The branch breaks and she dies from falling out of the tree. And it's tragic in that like she was finally back. And her, like Frances got her mom back, and she just suddenly dies so quickly. But it wasn't like sad to me because it was just kind of beautiful in that she got to go out on her own terms, right? Like when she was a prisoner in her own mind, a victim of dementia, she was going to waste away little by little until she didn't know who she was anymore. And that kind of death is just it's a prison. It's probably one of the worst ways to go. And the gift that this mushroom gave her, which is interesting because the mushroom is like literally the cure for everything. And the mushroom is life itself. The gift that the mushroom gave Frances's mom was death on her own terms. I just found that so poetic and beautiful. And it's not really something that I've really ever seen before in a work. And it really, really stuck out to me. Let's talk about why the finale worked. We're here talking about finales, right? This show, I think they got renewed. I don't know for sure. I have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure they got renewed after the show fully aired, which is pretty common. That's common in this day and age, which we're going to talk a little bit more about the streaming industry in a little bit. But that said, the writers still worked out a full end-to-end, fully fleshed out story where every single thread that they started got resolved in a satisfying way while still setting up small new threads that could blossom in future seasons should they get a new season, which they did. There's a new season coming out. Every single character got closure. There were not any arcs that got abandoned. I will say The difference here is this is one season versus like 4 seasons. So yeah, I'll give them that. But there's like, it wasn't like frustrating. There was not like one show that comes to mind that's really frustrating that's popular right now is From, right? It's very frustrating. They give you nothing. They give you just like these insane cliffhangers, and then now you have to wait 2 years. Common Side Effects didn't do that. It was a full end-to-end, fully fleshed out viewing experience, and it was really, 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 really well done. That said, the world still feels open. We still, like I said, we've just scratched the surface here. All the stakes that we are left with is there are cults that are forming, right? Because when you take this drug, when you take this mushroom, for some reason, it has some sort of psychological link or mental link between everybody that takes it. So everybody can see this little white creature, the same little white creature, everyone sees it, you know? And it's like forming like some sort of like cult-like behavior. You know, I think it's going to happen. Someone's going to take on to that, because where there is a cult, there is some megalomaniac that sees an opportunity to head said cult. I think that that's going to be a major plot point in the next season. This shared consciousness we saw, it's so spectacular how they did it. They were such small moments to plant these seeds. There was one small moment where Marshall was communicating, actively like interacting with the real world, communicating with Francis mentally, but still interacting with the real world. And they have no idea how that happened. They had no idea how they were able to do that, but they were. And then they never touched on it again. We just know that that's a thing that can happen. So it's just these little, not to mention the water supply. Hildy's crazy ass forced Marshall to create a tincture of the mushroom. They don't really even know what the side effects are. They know that there's some fucking crazy shit happening to people that take it. They really don't even know what the extent of that is. But Hildy's like, fuck that. We want chaos. So she makes this tincture. She's talking about she's going to fucking dose the world like against their fucking will. Which again, it's another take. It's another perspective. I told you the show takes this premise and it portrays it through different perspectives. And Hildy's is the chaos, the chaotic fucking, I don't even know if you call it chaotic neutral. I don't know if I would say chaotic evil even. Like there is a little bit of evil there in that she, or like, I don't know, like how you would put this, but she basically lets the people under her sell the mushroom, even though she doesn't actually care about the profit, but she sees it as a means to an end. So like maybe like a little utilitarianism there. It's a really interesting idea. And she's basically dosing the world for the greater good, but like without consent. So it's just a very interesting, it's an interesting shift. We get to see kind of the beginning seeds of this societal shift that's really going to come out in some really cool ways in season 2. But planting these seeds was not like, they weren't blockers on the central plot of the season. So the entire end-to-end story, all of the core stories were able to be resolved. Very well done. Now, let's talk about The Boys. And I say that because the only reason why I came up with this idea to talk about Common Side Effects and then talk about The Boys is because The Boys series finale happened last week. And I had just seen this really well done finale, and it was one of the best well done ones I've seen in a long time. I'm not going to sit here and say The Boys finale fucking sucked. It did not fucking suck. The biggest issue I had with it is that it largely felt unearned. And I will go into why I felt that way. I saw some leaks beforehand too. Like there was like a whole Reddit post or some shit like saying, oh, this is like exactly how the episode's going to go. If I'm being honest though, it was like more than 50% accurate. Like it had like most of it right, but there was a lot of bullshit in that. Let's talk about the premise of The Boys. So again, my last episode before I went on my 3-year hiatus was talking about The Boys. It's a satire on superheroes, on superhero comics, on superhero franchises, Marvel, DC, all of that stuff, right? It shows it's a satire on like the capitalization of that sort of thing. Sorry, capitalism of all of that. So like the Marvel franchising, right? You have Vought. Vought is this franchise that controls the narrative. And there's also like societal implications, like, cause it's also kind of a play on like Fox News and like politics and all of that, the MAGA shit. Fascism is also a huge theme that has been rising pretty much since season 2. They kind of went a little over the top this season, but it's really funny because like as they were going over the top, the mirroring of events that were happening in real life were kind of hilarious because what they were trying to do was satire, but is it satire when it's directly mirroring what's happening for real in real life? funny enough, Eric Kripke was Eric Kripke is the showrunner for The Boys. He was like expressing frustration that the ideas that they had in the show were supposed to be outrageous, but they aren't because they're happening for real. Like the whole thing with like fucking Trump and Jesus and shit. It was kind of hilarious. But I think that early on, The Boys really worked because it really focused on like consequences and fallout and collateral damage of these soups and how unbalanced humanity versus the soups were. You know, the idea of this like soup supremacy, like mirroring other social issues like racism and sexism and sexual assault and things like that. Like it was really, really well done in the early seasons in tackling those themes in a satirical way that almost felt on the nose. Sometimes it even was kind of on the nose, but I still think that they had a good handle on telling that narrative. That said, the show has very, very real issues around pacing. This isn't even a new issue either. Like this season, it was really glaring just because it's the last season. But this is not a new problem that the show has. And I wonder, it's maybe because they're trying to mirror the comics a little bit. I know they diverged quite a bit. Comic books have the concept of filler arcs. And the reason for that is because they need to give the writers break. You know, they have to, or there might be a writer's strike or something like that. So they put like kind of bullshit like side stories in. And I think that they were kind of doing that with the show too. And they were definitely doing that this season, which was quite frustrating. Let's talk about some of these characters. And maybe I'd like to tell you what, let's talk about the arc first. If I'm being totally honest, the entire conclusion of this show probably didn't need the first 8 episodes of the season. Like the first 8 episodes it went from having this virus that is supposed to kill all soups. That was supposed to be the way that we kill Homelander. Mind you, the whole series is supposed to show how much of a detriment to humanity Homelander is and how he has to die. He had to die, right? Like that was this season, the ending of the season was the culmination of finally killing Homelander. That is the goal. And they started that with the virus that was supposed to kill Homelander. They needed to test it. And they wanted to test it on Soldier Boy, who was like the original soup that was on V1. This concept of V1 was brand fucking new this season. Brand fucking new, by the way. They like never mentioned that shit before, but now we find out. I mean, I guess we kind of knew that Soldier Boy and them were like immortal, like a Stormfront is also like kind of immortal. So maybe kind of knew that they were maybe on a different kind of V. I don't know. It felt a little bit convenient, like when they were testing the virus and they put it in Soldier Boy and he survives it. And now they find out that V1 is going to be the thing that makes it so that the virus is useless against Homelander. And Homelander suddenly finds that out at the same exact fucking time. So now the season is shifting into, okay, so now we need to stop Homelander from getting V1. And there just happens to be one vial left. It was just like really convenient storylines. And not really for much substance, if I'm being honest. Because again, eventually Homelander does take the V1. So now he's immune to the virus. So the virus is just out the window. And what's crazy is like we spent like all of season 4 getting this fucking virus. Like there was so much fucking airtime dedicated to developing this virus. People died for this. Like Victoria Newman, like she died for this. Like her, like fucking Samir, the scientist, lost a leg for this shit. And like it never materialized into anything. It's insane. So Homelander gets V1. Now he thinks he's like immortal and shit and he's God. Mind you, these delusions of grandeur aren't new. He's thought he was superior since day one. I don't understand. I understand that like they wanted him to like finally go crazy and like think that he's Lord and like everybody should fucking like worship him and shit. I understand why they went into that direction. I just don't know why they tried to act like it was a new thing with him. Like this is somehow like he's somehow scary now. Like he fantasized about like lasering a whole crowd of people in like season 2. Like I think that is not exposition that we needed. And and mind you, a lot of airtime was spent on Homelander this season. And I like Homelander. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy him. I enjoy every time he's on scene. He's fucking crazy. We love that shit. But I just wish that it was in service of pushing the plot forward. I didn't feel like it really was, especially when what it culminated in. It was actually quite interesting. I really kind of liked the whole idea of like him gathering the sidekicks of around the world to try to like pinpoint who the real believers are and who aren't. I was actually kind of hoping he was going to go on a rampage. I think they should have. I think they should have had Homelander actually go on a fucking rampage and just try to kill a bunch of people and then have the final fight. I think that would have been a way more interesting watch. Instead, what we got was Homelander kind of doing an address to the nation and just like telling them, you're going to worship me. And in the middle of his speech, he gets attacked. And then in the middle of his speech, Kimiko, who has her Deus Ex Machina ability that Soulja Boy has. Oh my God, that was also annoying. Renders him powerless. And then he jumps straight to, I'll suck your dick on TV. I'll eat your shit. Like, I felt like that was such a weird choice. That was we know that he's supposed to be pathetic. We know that he's supposed to be like this pathetic creature. And the only thing that gives him his confidence and his power is the powers. I get that. It was just a little jarring for me, and jarring in like not a natural way. It just felt unearned. Like I wanted to see him crack slower. I wanted him to like start off like, you can't kill me. I'm the Homelander. He eventually got to that right before he was killed, but I wanted him to start that way. I wanted it to be a longer, slower breakdown into his weak ass self. And it was a little bit jarring. I really kind of wish that they went a little bit of a different direction with that. I'm kind of all over the place here, but let's talk a little bit about his death some more. So Kimiko, basically when he gets injected with the V1, he's immortal now. Virus is out the window. So now in the penultimate episode, second to last episode, they are suddenly now deciding that they have to somehow get Kimiko the power that Soulja Boy has to like render Soups powerless, which he was able to get after being captured by the Soviets for like 30 years and like massive radioactive testing being done on him to give him that ability. And they like gave that ability to Kimiko. I just don't know why they didn't start with that. They knew, like, I know that they wanted to go with the V1, but I feel like as soon as they realized Homelander was going to be searching for this V1, instead of spending 5 episodes also trying to search for the V1, they should have immediately just done the Kimiko thing. Immediately just give her that power. And then the next time you see Homelander, render him powerless and kill him. I didn't understand why we had to go through 5 episodes of bullshit for that. We didn't. I'm going to argue this to the day I die. Episode 1 through 8 were unnecessary as fuck. Like they really could have just jumped straight to that. They could have just jumped straight to that. Let's talk about some of the wrap ups. Let's talk about justice, right? So Homelander's justice. Again, I covered at length. His death was built up literally for years. And while of course it's going to be satisfying seeing him die. It happened too fast. This episode's runtime was like 57 minutes long, and I think he died at minute 30. That means there's 27 minutes left in this episode. Like even in the lead up to when it happened, like the boys were able to infiltrate the White House like super easily. They get stuck in this like tunnel, like with these humans. There's like 3 Soups among them, but they get stuck in this tunnel with these humans shooting at them with guns, and they're just pinned down. Oh no, we're stuck in here. And Ashley's bitch ass comes down and just presses a button to let them out. We'll get to Ashley's bitch ass in a minute. We're going to get to her. Just hold off on Ashley. But the fact is, like, after they get out of there, they zoom straight through the Deep's bitch ass. They zoom straight through Our Father's bitch ass, which hilarious. I will give you that Our Father's death was hilarious. That was an LOL moment for me in that episode. There just wasn't a lot of resistance to get to Homelander. Then they finally get to him. And even that fight was a little dragged on. Like, Kimiko's just standing there. I'm like, bitch, power your shit up. And not to mention, like, she has a moment mid-fight. Fucking Ryan comes in with that was also an awesome moment where, like, Homelander was trying to get away, and Ryan comes in and says, no, not today, bitch. That was an awesome moment, too. But Ryan and Butcher are trying to beat Homelander's ass, saying, like, Kimiko, come on, bitch, do the death ray. And she's sitting here like, oh, I don't think I can do it. And then she has this little like aside where Frenchie comes in and says, oh no, girl, it was your heart the whole time. I'm like, unearned, man. Because even Frenchie's death, I'm a little bit pissed about that because I know that they really killed him off just to kill someone off. It was to martyr him, and martyring him for the sake of giving Kimiko closure, I think, because it's funny because it's supposed to give her rage. That's the whole idea, is that the entire show, Kimiko is full of rage and her growth is trying to move past the rage into love instead. Again, felt forced. The whole fucking season to me felt fucking forced. And killing Frenchie off, I guess, the audience is supposed to interpret that as that's supposed to be her final rage, but ends up being acceptance instead. Again, felt forced and rushed. Like he just died. We just had his funeral in the first few minutes of the episode. and she is suddenly just accepts it. Like she has no more rage in her heart, just acceptance. It just felt a little bit out of place to me, especially during such a climactic fight. This is a fight that we are like, this is like a culminating fight. The thing that I bring it back to is the fight between Butcher, Soldier Boy, and Homelander in like season 3. That's the kind of fight we wanted to see. That fight fucking rocked. And Homelander almost fucking died in that shit. That is the fucking finale we wanted to see. And we didn't really get that. And that's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. He died. Didn't feel that earned to me. It felt a little too easy, but hey, okay, he's done. Let's talk about fucking Ashley. This bitch. This bitch got no fucking consequences, my dude. Like she, and talk about failing up. Like this girl starts off the series as like Madeline's bitch ass assistant and ends up the president of the United fucking States. I almost love that for her. I actually find that hilarious how she just keeps fucking failing up. And and she has done a lot of fucked up shit. I'm sorry. Like there's maybe not like there's definitely direct blood on her hands, but there's a lot of indirect blood on her hands from her own inaction. Like her, like leaving the president, she got the actual president fucking killed. Like she, like her own inaction has caused so much harm. And she has this one redeeming moment where instead of choosing herself, she goes downstairs and presses a button, and that's her fucking redemption. Like that, I'm sorry, unearned, honey. And all she gets is impeached. That's like, she gets impeached from being a president. That's it. That's all she gets. And I'm like, come on, man. I don't know what I wanted from her. I don't necessarily want her to die because that would be too easy. I don't know what I wanted from her. Some kind of form of hell like Jonas got in Common Side Effects. Like maybe like she's just stuck with back of the head Ashley like yapping her ear off forever or something like that. We kind of didn't get any closure on that. It was a funny moment. It was a funny moment with her doing the State of the Union address where she's like, and I should get no consequences because I did nothing wrong. And it cuts immediately to the news saying that Congress has voted her out of the fucking like, that was funny. That was a funny fucking moment. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sorry. Her redemption, I don't buy it. She needs more than that. It's trash. That's trash, bro. The world itself had so many loose ends. Like there's so much trauma and that just got super unresolved. Like even right after Homelander dies, we cut to the boys like sipping on beers and like going, oh yeah, we did that. We finally did. Dude, there were concentration camps. There were fucking soups killing people in the streets, stripping taking people out of their homes. Like society has collapsed. Like they were rounding people up for fucking posting on fucking social media saying that like Homelander's a scary dude, man. And now we're having like a weird montage of like a wedding between Mother's Milk. I almost said Muscle Milk. Mother's Milk and his wife getting back together. His wife, who we have not seen at all the entire season. And like Ryan's there for some reason. Like I guess it's like implied that Mother's Milk. I was called Muscle Milk. Why the fuck am I saying that? Mother's Milk like adopted Ryan, I guess. Have they ever had any dialogue together, Mother's Milk and Ryan, ever? Like, I felt so out of nowhere, like out of the blue to me. Like these happy endings, like fucking Kimiko in in Montreal or whatever. Or I don't know where she was. She was in France or something, like southern France, like eating a macaroon, like and like smiling, like yeah, I've accepted my love's death. Oh my god, it just doesn't. None of that resolution felt earned whatsoever. You're here. You're probably wondering, Kigozi, you're missing someone here. What about Butcher and Huey? That's another thing, man. I am convinced, and maybe this is a little bit cynical of me, I am convinced that they wrote this episode, killed Homelander off at the 30-minute mark, did these like this wrap up, like clinking beers, like we did this shit, and then realized, oh shit, we have to kill off Butcher too. Butcher's death felt so shoehorned to me. Like he sees Terror, the dog, die of natural causes, mind you. Now he's an old dog, died of natural causes, and for some reason that fucking like kickstarts him into thinking, I need to release the virus anyway. I actually got a little excited about that. I thought we were actually going to get some chaos. We had no chaos. I wanted the chaos. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see some reason for the continuation of the series because it's going to get a continuation. Bot Rising is a fucking sequel, not a prequel, a sequel. That's a fucking sequel. That's why they literally put Soldier Boy on ice for that. Like it's crazy. So I got excited. I thought, okay, they've spent so much screen time over the past 2 seasons on this virus. They're going to finally release it. Like, that's awesome. That's a great, like, next chapter of this world. And it ends up being Huey catches him just in time and overpowers him somehow and then shoots him in the chest and he just dies from that. Like, what? Like, I don't even know, man. Like, and the fact that, like, Butcher hesitates because he sees, I guess, Lenny. They have been trying to shoehorn this in for several seasons now. I get it that Huey is supposed to remind him of his brother, but they kind of abandoned that for a couple of seasons. And then they kind of try to bring it back in these last 3 episodes. And it didn't feel natural at all. Oh my God, there were just so much more that they could have done there. Was the finale total shit? No, it was not total shit. We got resolution, not the resolution we wanted. Even the Deep, like, his end was kind of unceremonious. Like, it was kind of, okay, like, poetic that the fish and the sea folk were the ones that killed him. But even that, he just got a tentacle shoved up his ass. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I wanted to see more than that. I wanted to see the dude get ripped apart or something. I don't know. Like, I feel like he really kind of got off a little easy with that. Not to mention, like, some of the side plots. I don't know, man. It just felt too rushed. And it's a weird problem to have because it was rushed in that they kind of shoehorned in the whole resolution in these last 2 episodes, kind of retconning and rendering episode 1 through 8, and even a lot of season 4, total bullshit, totally pointless, right? Even Sage, she kind of didn't even really get like, she's done some horrible, reprehensible shit in this show. And she kind of got a happy ever after. She got to go to fucking Disneyland or Universal Studios, go to Harry Potter Land. Like, it was just an interesting thing. So why does this happen this way? So I am of the opinion that they're not terrible writers. I'm not going to sit here and say that the writers of The Boys are just bad writers. They're not. Because, like, again, they executed the first few seasons really, really impeccably well. I think that our series here has suffered from a really common problem that exists in the streaming world today, the streaming era that we're in with the Netflixes, the Paramount Pluses, the HBO Maxes and the like, right? The Hulus. And the way that these companies work is when they greenlight these series, they give them 1 season at a time. And a lot of these shows really only make it past 1 season. So the writers are faced with this challenge of writing a compelling story, right? They might have a concept for 5 seasons, but they're like living day by day. They don't know if they're even going to get another season. So they have to try to write a self-contained story end to end that also plants seeds for and generates hype for another season. Something that Common Side Effects did really, really well, by the way. But they were a lot lighter to the touch with it. Whereas the kind of show that The Boys is, they had to be a lot more heavy to the touch with. As a result, I don't know that they had a real vision of how they wanted to execute the ending of the series. I know that in the beginning of the show, in season 1, they probably knew that it had to end with Homelander's death and probably also Butcher's death. I think at the time that the first season came out, the comic book might have been even like complete at the time. So like they kind of had an idea of where they wanted to go. Mind you, though, the comics and the show have diverged quite a bit. So there's a little bit of a Game of Thrones problem here. So it's like it's I get it. I get why they're in this situation. They're not the first show to suffer from this. Stranger Things just suffered from this too. Like it's you don't get a lot of bandwidth to complete your story over the course of multiple seasons. The example that I give here is Breaking Bad. That's one of the most perfect end-to-end shows out there that exist right now. And it's because Vince Gilligan had a beginning, middle, and end plan from the start. He knew how that show was going to end from the first fucking episode because he was given that latitude. AMC said, here's 5 seasons. So he was able to actually plan it all. That doesn't exist anymore. That privilege doesn't really exist anymore for shows. So I think that's kind of the problem here. Maybe like a lot of the pacing issues probably happens around like the showrunner giving notes to the writers. The writers probably have an idea of how the show should execute over the course of 8 to 10 episodes. And maybe the producers come in saying, nope, we need a cliffhanger here. Nope, we need X, Y, and Z here. Nope, we need some product placement here. And that's kind of that kind of enshittification is kind of what puts us in this kind of problem here. that's not it's not an unsolvable problem. There are other shows that have executed this better. Unfortunately, with The Boys, it's really glaring. With, I think Amazon Prime is their producer or something. And honestly, their spinoff show Gen V just got axed too. That was supposed to have a season 3. They just got fucking canceled. So it's like they're in this world where they're really just living day by day, and they kind of can't help it. So I want to give them that benefit of the doubt. Was I satisfied with the finale? No. But was it the worst finale I've ever seen in my life? No. So I digress. Common Side Effects, great finale. The Boys, less than great finale. We'll see with Bot Rising. We'll see. I will watch it. Of course I will. I love that shit. It's fucking gory and it's funny and it's fucking crazy and shit. And I fuck with that shit. I will watch the fuck out of it. But we don't give passes to poor execution. And I do think that they could have executed this finale better, but that's okay. We still love it. I am due for a rewatch. I will probably rewatch the whole Boys series at some point just to kind of give it a fair shake. Cause mind you, I haven't seen season 4 since like 2 years ago when it aired. But yeah, we haven't even talked about the Gen V guys. Like they like shoehorned the Gen V characters in there for kind of no fucking reason. It was okay. We're running out of time. Maybe another time. Anyway, that's my take on the Boys finale. Thank you guys for listening. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me in my little return here. And yeah, bye.